Things that I want everyone to know about me before I jump into my remarks. My parents, Cynthia Ernestine Bowman and Carlos Enrique Jose Antonio Rafael Vernon, met in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 1950s. My mother is a native New Orleanian. My father immigrated to the United States from Panama to attend college. He was a Black Panamanian. The United States was segregated. Panama was not. He was 20. 20 years of being a free man to come to a country for education and opportunity, but no longer be free. Imagine it. My father told us that when he came to America, he had to select a race. Since he was the color of a Hershey's chocolate bar, it was clear to him that he would pick Black. And for Latinos, this country made us pick a side. And for Black Latinos, it was picked for us. It was the side of people who'd been stripped of self-dominion, stripped of agency, people considered less than fully human. According to the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Black people were legally categorized as 3/5 of a person. It's important for you to know that background because, like many of you, my parents shared the stories of their early challenges and hurdles. They had to push through considerable adversity, so I was raised to know that my life may be challenged by setbacks and barriers at the institutional and individual level. As the daughter of an immigrant and the daughter of ancestors who were legally segregated and legally enslaved before that, I was raised to know my information, to be well-versed, well-spoken, to use my voice, and to be a person of action. Today, I live with my husband and our 2 children in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a city we had come to believe was a peaceful, progressive sanctuary. That is the city where 4 years ago, Philando Castile, an unarmed Black man, was shot 7 times in his own car in front of his wife and 4-year-old daughter by a police officer during a traffic stop. It is also the city where 2 months ago, George Floyd, an unarmed Black man, was murdered by police while begging for his life for 8 minutes and 46 seconds because he was accused by a store owner of using a $20 counterfeit bill. That was May 25th. On that day, I had hoped to tell my 12-year-old and 14-year-old children about the tragic murder before they heard elsewhere. But because we're living in a digital age, that was impossible. Within 15 minutes of hearing about the murder, my 14-year-old son was devastated and started a GoFundMe for George Floyd's family. After I explained to him the nuances of GoFundMe, and that he likely couldn't start this fund, he was crushed. He wanted to help. That night, I went into his room to check on him. He's normally a very reserved kid, stoic and minimal in his words. He'd gotten to the age where he's taller than me, but that night, he was curled up in the fetal position, lying next to me, body sobbing with those full body, silent sobs that are so difficult to comfort. He wanted to change the world. He wanted to do it now, but how? This is a picture of my little boy. And this is him now. He turns 15 in a month. And this is Trayvon Martin, who was killed at age 17 for wearing a hoodie and walking home with his bag of Skittles in the pocket of his hoodie. That day, May 25th, for the first time, my son realized that he or his sister or I could be George Floyd or Trayvon Martin or Breonna Taylor. I don't add my husband to the list because even though my husband is Black and his parents were both Black, he's very fair-skinned and most likely won't be in the same way of harm of his more brown-skinned family. As the mother of these two brown-skinned children, I needed to help. So 2 days later, I wrote my first content in what would become playfully known as my White Ally program. You see, I was not only raised to understand the civil rights movement, but as a little girl, I marched on Washington with my mother for the passage of the Women's Equal Rights Amendment, which still hasn't passed, although the required number of states have officially ratified the amendment. One thing I learned early is that every social justice movement needs allies to be successful. So now that I don't work in corporate America, I'm in a great position to cultivate allies. So once or twice a week, based on the mood of the culture, I compose a short form piece of social media content to help ease allies into understanding of both light-skinned and white privilege and the joy and the pain of Blackness. I intentionally make the content welcoming yet thought-provoking. I'm using my voice to build the conviction, compassion, and configuration of the allies in this movement to dismantle racism. My topics have included, when did you have your first Black teacher? So, what is the Black National Anthem and why does it exist? Or, hey Mom, how come you don't have any Black friends? Or, is there an article of clothing your son could wear that would put his life at risk? If you want to see them and share them, just look me up on social media. I'm at Carla Inspired on all the platforms, and I make my content to be shared. I experimented with platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I was most nervous about sharing these posts on LinkedIn. But I'm shocked at how many people say the posts are changing their lives, giving them a boldness to discuss white and light-skinned privilege and to take actions. My 14-year-old and his South Asian buddy have teamed up to use their voices also. Here's my son and his friend. They researched social justice organizations and decided to create a GoFundMe in honor of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And these two normally introverted boys were recently interviewed on a podcast where they were asked about their thoughts about racism and what actions they are taking to address it. The podcast is called Takeout with Ashley and Robin. So far, the boys have raised more than $14,000 by sharing efforts through social media, their friends, and their family. These 14-year-old boys were not content until they could find a way to use their voices. After George Floyd's murder, the power of protest became clear. But I want you to consider the power of your voice to cultivate alignment. Your voice is powerful if you recognize the moment when it's needed, and then you not only use it, but you allow it to be amplified. I don't care if you're in the C-suite or in the 9th grade. You are a megaphone. My call to action is to define what change you are wishing for, to clarify who else needs to come along, and to think of your voice as a broadcast channel and get your message out. We need to hear you. As a final reminder of how one voice can change this world, this message from me to you has been approximately 8 minutes and 46 seconds. The same amount of time George Floyd so powerfully used his last words.